Morning, everyone. Welcome along. It's a small but I'm sure dedicated audience. We are very, very happy to welcome along our three speakers to discuss what is an important topic in Japan with important repercussions for the future. Of course, most people in the room will know that last year Tokyo Medical University admitted systematically manipulating the points of female applicants who were trying to gain entrance to the university. The aim was to maintain the ratio of women at the university to below 30%. The practice had gone on for a decade. The Education Ministry has since investigated over 80 universities in Japan, and they have apparently found problems at about 30. That's still under suspicion. So university officials say that they changed the scores of these women to avoid a doctor shortage because women apparently get married, get pregnant, and leave the school. That was their excuse. There was a very interesting comment in the Asahi from the president of one of these universities a couple of weeks ago. He said, "Women mature faster mentally than men, and their communication ability is also higher when they take the entrance exam. In some ways, this was a measure to help male applicants," which was quite a backhanded compliment, I think, to women, and a very odd excuse. The group that we have today are leading a legal challenge against Tokyo Medical University. They are taking them to court. I believe the lawsuit started last week, Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Friday. We have the speakers are Yukiko Tsunoda, who's joint representative of lawyers acting to eliminate discrimination against women in entry examinations for medical school. Kazuo Yamaguchi is a professor of sociology at the University of Chicago, and Yumi Itakura is Secretariat member of the same group of lawyers. I believe that Tsunoda Sensei is going to start first. Is that right?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Itakura Sensei is going to start first. My apologies. Onegaishimasu.
Thank you very much for coming today, and we were honored to be here. And we would like to express sincere appreciation to everyone here and the AFCCJ to give the precious opportunity. My name is Yumi Itakura, the Secretariat member of the lawyers group called Lawyers Acting to Eliminate Discrimination Against Women in Entrance Examination for Medical School. And let me introduce today's presenter quickly. The right side is Professor Yamaguchi, the representative supporter of our group, and every female applicant suffering from the discriminatory treatment. And the left side is the attorney Yukiko Tsunoda. She is the joint representative of our group, and as you know, she is trailblazing feminist theorist and lawyer who got involved in many groundbreaking litigation as sexual discrimination and sexual assault cases. And today, I will start with the explanation and explain our activities, our lawyers' activities, and the litigation that we filed. With the Tokyo District Court, representing our 33 plaintiffs of the female applicants who are suffering from the discriminatory treatment. And we will already prepared the handout. The two types of the handout, the title, an outline of the legal action against the Tokyo Medical University. And the second one is the introduction, lawyers acting elimination. The introduction, lawyers acting elimination discrimination against our groups. And As to the litigation that we filed the lawsuits against the Tokyo Medical University the last week, the following is the key information about the lawsuits as follows. The dated complaint filed March 22, 2019, and the court venue is the Tokyo District Court, and the case number Tokyo. The Heisei is the case number should be omitted, and the number of plaintiffs 33. The plaintiffs are all women, mostly in their 20s of age, and about half of the medical students enrolled in the school other than Tokyo Medical University, and the rest are practicing doctor and working women in non-medical sector, and a university student in non-medical department, and the high school graduate preparing for entrance examination this year. And the breakdown of the plaintiff of the year of the entrance examination. Some took their examination multiple times, as described in this paper. And the total amount of the claim as damage compensation is the 129 million yen, the approximately 130 million yen in total for 33 plaintiffs. And the detail of the claim. First of all, the common complaint for all the complaints plaintiff is the compensation for forcing applicants to take sex-based discriminatory entrance examination, 2 million yen for each year. And the second is the application fee, the take back the application refund of the application fee, the amount each plaintiff paid to the Tokyo Medical University. And also we claimed the payment of the transportation and accommodation expenses needed to take the examination. And the second is that for just only 2 plaintiffs who were subject to Tokyo Medical University is survey of intent admission for 2017 and 2018. That means this only 2 plaintiffs should have the past this entrance examination should have the obtained admission without this malpractice of the discriminatory manipulation of the score. And the compensation, as for these two people, we were claiming compensation for rejecting the applicants as a result of the unjust and unfair. That is to say, the sex discriminatory score manipulation, 5 million yen for each year. And as you know, the independent third-party investigation committee conducted investigation, and they issued the final reports that saying that our university had committed a test score manipulation intentionally and sex discriminatory to exclude some female applicants and the other malpractice in entrance examination between 2013 and 2016, and the third-party committee proposed the Tokyo Medical University to review and reconsider the admission result of the female applicant for these 4 years. However, the Tokyo Medical University has not yet reviewed in accordance with that proposal. And the Tokyo Medical University has not released the name of the applicant who should have the gain admission between 2013 and 2016. The plaintiffs are demanding the disclosure of the information regarding the test score. And depending on the result of the disclosure, we will add the amount of the claim. And the issues to be considered in the damage calculation, the damage concerning entrance to examination, of course, the plaintiff or all the female were discriminated against for the biological sex. This is a congenital trait, and the biological attribution that they cannot change and take control of that on their own. And the Tokyo Medical University defined their accepted social norm and the trust that university entrance examination should be conducted in a fair way and the equal way. But the series of their malpractice and is the really betrayal of the applicant and the trust on the applicant trust on the Tokyo Medical University. And the number of the medical school in Japan are very limited number, and the entrance examination in each university are sometimes conducted in the same date. The Tokyo Medical University has thus deprived these female applicants of the chance to take fairer examination at their university. And the damage concerning entrance rejection. The female applicant of Tokyo Medical University suffered this severe pain and the loss of self-confidence as women by realizing that their failure to be admitted due to the university unjust gender discrimination, gender discriminatory score manipulation to exclude some female applicants. This discriminatory treatment gave them very crucial and adverse impact on the female applicant. That means that they lost their self-confidence, and the self-confidence and the motivation to go forward to the bright future. And that's why we as well as everybody in Japan and the other from the other country considers that what the university did is unforgivable discrimination. That we think that they should take responsibility for this discriminatory treatment, and that's why we filed the lawsuits against our Tokyo Medical University. Claiming their damage compensation. And the next is I will explain the meaning and the purpose of the litigation. Since we established this group, we send a notification letter to the Tokyo Medical University to offer the opportunity to talk for the constructive meeting to solve this problem, but they ignore our offer. And that's why we had no choice but to file lawsuits against the university. So the meaning of the litigation is not only for the pursuing the responsibility for the university, but also this litigation is testing our insensitivity to the gender equality and how we would create our future society. And as Japan is our economically advanced country, but as for in terms of gender equality, is a very developing country. That's why. I think this litigation can become our the watershed to break through this male dominant entrance male dominant society. And our Japanese society are at the crossroad, and that's why sorry, repeatedly. So that's why this litigation is testing that not only that the university, but also our society, including the judicial system and the government agency, administrative agency governing this ministry of such as the Ministry of Justice and the old medical school. And the yes, and So what I want to say the most is the Tokyo Medical University make the excuse that they justify what they did, explaining the female doctor quit early because they cannot endure the long working hours, so they are very difficult to balance their family responsibility and the demand of work. But I think that such harsh working environment should be corrected, but unfortunately their mindset, there is no thoughts of their harsh and miserable working environment should be corrected, ameliorated, is in their mindset. So that's why through this litigation, we through the we raised the problem to the problem of the such as the work way of working and the harsh working environment. Discourages the women to continue to work. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yamaguchi-sensei?
Good morning, everybody. My talk try to locate this problem in broader perspective, and I'd like to talk about gender inequality and discrimination in the attainment of the high status profession in Japan. And first of all, you found out, may see that the proportion of women among physicians, it's OECD countries, and the red one at the bottom is Japan. It's the lowest, next lowest is South Korea. And also, the Tokyo Medical University gave a higher rate of female doctors primary reason that there are discriminatory practices against women. Discrimination against women in entrance examination against the Japanese Constitution, the Basic Act of the education. These are just act and both are given. I'm emphasizing this because when this discriminatory practice of the Tokyo Medical University is disclosed, then a high-rank officer of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, and Science and Technology, I believe at the Ministry of Education, hereafter, stated that as long as the university guideline for the entrance examination, as long as adjustments for the ratio between men and women to be admitted is clearly stated in the university guideline for entrance examinations, such an adjustment can be done under responsibility of the university. It would be a problem if the Tokyo Medical University will minister of making adjustment without such an explanation. So it's emphasized the lack of transparency in the guideline for admission procedure rather than the discrimination itself, which is problematic, according to the officer. And also, the Minister of the Ministry of Education also sort of make a supporting argument that if female applicants were unfairly discriminated against without proper purpose and without being indicated as such in the recruitment guideline, the Ministry of Education will not approve such a practice. Again, without referring to any violation of the Constitution or law, he referred to sort of presence of proper purpose as well as a presence of description in a guideline as a sort of a necessity for such discriminatory practices. And in fact, what a proper purpose is very ambiguous. And Tokyo Medical School initially raised the high quit rate of women among physicians, but that by itself is actually an artifact, because actually it is the decline of the proportion of women with age, which is given as evidence, is actually the reflection of the declining proportion of women who were successful in national medical examinations. And actual quit rate is a very small difference in quit rate of just 70% on average. And what the man has a 91% of employment rate, while as women have 84% of employment. So quit rate is difference is very minimal. So it itself actually indicates that national examination itself has sort of placed a sort of ceiling since about 2000, because number of applicants, women, are increasing, but number of successful applicants stayed about the same in proportion. So, and this issue is actually not only the medical profession, because the next slide, this graph shows that among college educators, among OECD countries, again, Japan is at the bottom of the proportion, followed by South Korea from the bottom, from the second from the bottom. So Japan is the lowest proportion of women among college educators. The same thing holds for researchers. Japan, again, the 40%, it's bottom, it's the red mark. And South Korea is the second from the bottom. It's very consistent. And the next slide shows that for various professions of high statuses, this is congresspersons, of a House of Councilors, 80%, House of Representatives, only 8%, governors, 4%, judges, 80%, prosecutors, 20%, attorneys, 80%, and so forth. And high school principals and vice principals, only 7%, and so forth. And actually, most of those actually are actually at the bottom of the, of course, so the legal professions, the judges and prosecutors are also at the bottom of the OECD countries. And as well as the principal, high school principals, the vice principals, also the lowest in Japan compared with other OECD countries. So there's a serious underrepresentation of women in high status professions. And I have actually make a distinction between so-called type 1, type 2 professions. Type 1 professions include all non-human service professions, such as accountant, lawyers, and engineer, and so forth. And women's are mostly representative so-called human service professions, but even for human service professions, high status professions are largely dominated by men. So the type 2, what I refer to the type 2 profession is medium to low status human service professions, and everything else in type 1 profession, which includes most of the high status professions. Japan, only less than 2% of the labor force has type 1 professions, compared with the US, which is 13%. So it is, Japanese women's professions highly skewed toward professions which are sort of extension of household work, childcare, and so forth, which women's typical traditional junior labor reflect. So it is considered in Japan that even the professional occupations, those are sort of extension of typical household or junior labor, extended into labor market. And the related problem is that Japan and Turkey is only country where the college graduation rate of the women is still lower than college graduation rate of the men among OECD countries. And still, gap is narrowing, but still have a wide gap. And the next graph, which indicate even among elite colleges, such as, this is again international comparison, was very selected, but you can see from this graph, for example, the women's ratio in Harvard, Yale, Stanford, MIT, and even MIT, which is a lot of big portion of engineering and science, 40%, 44% of women. For other Ivy League schools, nearly 50% of women in America. Compared with other countries such as Great Britain, again, Cambridge and Oxford, 49%, 47% of women, nearly 50%. For Seoul National Universities, 40%. Yonsei University, which is again also a very prestigious private university in Korea, South Korea, also have about 40% of women. Whereas in Japan, University of Tokyo, less than 20%, 90%. Kyoto University, 20%. And Hitotsubashi University, 27%, and so forth. And you can see that in elite universities, women are seriously underrepresented. And so through education, the women are seriously handicapped to have access to best educations, and also doubly handicapped because there's a strong suspect not only the medical schools, but for schools which are related to professions, such as professional law school and so forth. There's a suspect about gender discrimination in entrance examinations, even though this is the first time we got hard evidence for discrimination in entrance examination. But government stance is lukewarm at best. they denounce discrimination, but at the same time, they don't declare that this is anti-constitutional, anti-basic law of education, but just consider that it's not desirable practices. And also even suggested that if the guideline is clearly stated, quota may be allowed, gender-based quota may be allowed. And that's a problem of the government and administration, public administration, in addition to the practices done by many medical schools, which are under suspect, over and beyond Tokyo Medical Schools. The last one indicates also Japanese colleges lack diversity in ages. So this time, not only gender discrimination, but age discrimination was found, because there are many medical schools actually discriminate against so-called ronin, who were a few years away from the high school graduation to be discounted in entrance examinations. And you can see that the average age of admission, college admission, is lowest, 18%, age 18 in Japan, compared with many other countries which have much higher average age of at entry into colleges. So Japanese university clearly lack diversity, and it's partly suspect because of the sort of possible discrimination against people who take some years to apply for universities, and that's also a part of the problems. And there are finally some references are given for possible further information, mostly based on my own study, which is forthcoming as the publication about gender inequality in Japan from Springer and so forth. Okay, so that's all for my presentation.
Thank you. Tsunoda-sensei, did you want to say anything? Or? No. Okay.
I wanted to add some.
Dozo.
Please let me add some comment. And one of the reasons in Japan the gap is could not be narrowed, the bridge for a long time is for example, in this case, in Japan, the fundamental law of education explicitly prohibits the institution of a higher education to discriminate based on sex and race and etc. But there is no punish provision. That's why in this case, in this time, the Ministry of Education issued their final reports based on a result of the investigation to 81 medical university, but they did not give any punishments to the targeted medical university. That's why due to the lack of the punishment system towards the discriminatory treatment, the university conducting the malpractice of the discriminatory treatment can get away with the slap on the wrist. I think the government and the lawmaker create more. Anyway, the current system is really lenient to the lax to the discrimination treatment. So that's why I think the government, administrative agency, and the lawmaker should consider to establish the more effective punitive system towards the discriminatory treatment.
Thank you. Can you, are any of the speakers able to remind us how this scandal emerged? Because we all suspected, didn't we, that this was going on, but where did the hard data come from? Can you remind us of that?
That data?
Well, how did...
First of all, this manipulation score scandal is the so-called derivative ramification of the other scandal, the corruption, and the so-called backdoor entrance of the son of the higher government official. They offer the favor to the medical university in exchange of the They offer they administer they adjust the score in favor of the son in exchange of the favor, providing the favor of the subsidized research subsidized. So that's why if such news, the scandal, other scandal is not revealed, anybody cannot recognize this sex discriminatory treatment, malpractice scandal.
Right. So it came out as a byproduct of another scandal. Right. Okay. I'll throw the floor open to questions in a second. Just on a point of clarity, the half of the medical students, or the plaintiffs, this is the 33 plaintiffs, half are enrolled in schools other than Tokyo Medical University. The rest are practicing doctors, working women in non-medical sectors, university students in non-medical departments, and high school graduates preparing for entrance examinations. So do you know how many women actually abandoned their dreams of becoming doctors because of this scandal? Do we have a figure for that? No?
Among the plaintiffs?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So some of them continue to make an effort to preparing the next trial, the examination. But some of them give up their dream to become that doctor.
Right. So in most cases, if they were rejected by Tokyo Medical University, they could find another university or another school to go to.
Yes, some of them, yes.
Some of them, okay. Any questions from the floor? We'll throw it open to the working press first. That would be the three gentlemen here. Dozo.
Süddeutsche Zeitung Neidhardt. Two questions, because I think it's no problem with today to have two questions. And I'm sorry I was late, so maybe you already said something to my first question. Mr. Abe danced around this W20 conference over the weekend. And of course, Mr. Abe is the great empowerer of women in this country. And he even fools Mrs. Lagarde, who the chief of the IMF, who goes around the world telling how much Mr. Abe is changing the role of the women in Japan. Maybe you say a few words to that. My second question is, more than half of the voters in Japan are women. So, and everybody, every young girl in this country knows about this situation. Many young women say the only way to have equal opportunities is to emigrate. So why is politics not different? Why don't women vote for women in this country?
So the first question was about, basically, how do you feel about the Abe government's, in particular Shinzo Abe, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's rhetorical claims about womenomics, about empowering women? Maybe you could address that first.
Yes. Well, in principle, of course, it's praiseworthy that the Abe administration expressed commitment to the enhancement of the economic activities of women by, for example, enacting a new law in 2015 for, I forgot exactly, the Act on the Promotion of Success in the Working Career of Women in 2015, and which is an accomplishment, I believe, and also have international conferences for inviting some global leaders as role models for Japan to disseminate information about how women can be successful in various societies. But at the same time, the intention to improve the situation of women is not consistent with the actual occurrences of women's situations, because gender gap index, for example, consistently show that Japan is actually declining relative to other countries in terms of narrowing gender inequalities, and especially in economic and political participation in economic activities. Of course, That is, for economic activities, it's primarily the private sector firms who have sort of stereotypical hiring, not providing much of the opportunities and imposing long hours of work, which is very difficult for especially married women with children to be to make a balancing work and family very difficult, and therefore quit. Even though the quit rate is actually declining, the firms, private sector firms, tend to regard the women staying in the firm is temporary, and that applies to sort of statistical discrimination against women is a practice which is commonly found in Japan. Now long working hours is also a problem. The Abe administration tried to also, at least in intention, to reduce working hours, but actual proposal which has been made with a compromise with Keidanren is very, very dissatisfactory ones, because of this ceiling they made for the maximum hours of work is far from sufficient, which is very still large, and 720 hours overtime working annually, and even set for physicians, even higher, I think 1,800 something, the maximum overtime working annually, and that's really is contradictory to the contradiction between intention, actual deed, which was done. So intention is okay, but it has not been successful.
And the second question, why not women vote for women?
Oh my God.
私でいいですか? As for the second question, as for the first question, I think Mr. Abe, President Abe, Prime Minister Abe is really good at to be pretended to be a good person, feminist. I think his policy about advancement of the participation of women into the workforce is better than nothing. Better than nothing. That's certainly the effective at a certain level, but it's not drastical. As for example, considering this cases, their attitude, the government attitude is detached, and from this issue, I think it is a really crucial issue, the discriminatory cases, but they do not take any effective countermeasure to give remedy to the female applicant. That there's I think that attitude is represented what Abe's attitude and the thoughts towards the women's participation in the workplace and gender equality.
So you think...
I have an addition. One of the major reasons why the women do not vote for women is actually that there's a disproportionate representation of the men among the candidates. So female candidates are very, very small in number. And there was fortunately, Japan passed a parity law to equalize the gender proportion among candidates, which is, again, a sort of target, how much the parties follow that objective of the law is still not, because it's not without punishment, anything, so is uncertain. But at least in the next election, many parties, other than LDP, has been trying to increase the proportion of the candidates or women candidates. And that probably makes some differences. And so that's the situation.
My answer. Okay. I think that one of the reasons women would not vote for the female candidate is for some reason the women in itself are socialized and internalized to be inferior to the male. That's why it is a bit difficult to explain it. As for me, I'm always rooting for the female candidate. So, but I cannot understand why the women would not vote for the female candidate. But as I mentioned, for some reason, some women are internalized and socialized. The women should be inferior to the male person.
Some people have mentioned the poor quality of female candidates in the LDP as well, including those who've. Would you give any credit to that?
Would you what?
Some people have mentioned the poor quality of female candidates in the LDP, which is the ruling party. Do you think that's a legitimate criticism?
Legitimate criticism? Sorry,
Some people have said that the candidates who do, the female candidates who do end up in the LDP and do end up in the cabinet are poor quality. That's one of the criticisms that has been made. So why would you vote for them just because they're women if they're bad candidates? Do you think that's a legitimate criticism?
No.
You would vote for them anyway?
But I don't think every female candidate is qualified to be the good good legislator. So irrespective of the sex, ideally, irrespective of the sex, the good quality and those who those who have the qualification and motivation to be good and enthusiastic to create a good country should be voted, should be elected, irrespective of the sex.
Who could disagree with that? Any more questions from the working press? This lady here first.
Hi, I'm Joanne Ferry from West France newspaper. I have several questions too. I would like to come back to the dream question actually. Out of the 33 plaintiffs, how many girls completely gave up studies because they couldn't reach the dream to try to become medicine?
I'm not sure how many plaintiff give up their dream.
You don't know?
I don't know.
And I would like to know how many times you are allowed to take the exam. It is limited.
That depends on the person.
Yeah, but for the school, is there limited times you have to? Can you take the exam as much as you want, or is it limited in time?
Limited time?
Yeah, just 1 time, 2 times, and it's over, or is it unlimited? You can take it as much as you want.
It's unlimited, but
unlimited.
But as I mentioned, there are 2 years more time lag between high school graduation and entry into application. Then there was evidence that there's many universities, medical universities, other discrimination against those whose time is over, 2 years or more.
Okay.
As brought in. So that's. But in principle, everybody, regardless of the age and time relaxed from graduation, they are allowed to apply.
Okay.
Yes.
And I have one last question about that. I was for you, Yamaguchi. So I'm wondering if I understood correctly, if the discriminatory system maybe is going also in other schools, in other fields, in other universities in Japan. Do you think it's spreading in other universities, not only in medical school?
Oh yeah. Well, if you talk about the majors, this is just include all the majors. So for the elite universities, women's representation is quite low.
But do you think maybe there is this kind of discriminatory system in other schools, other universities?
At least there's no clear evidence for that. But at least we are investigating why the proportion of women to those universities are so low. And one of the things is that, of course, there are the gender-segregated high school elite educations. And many of for example, the successful entrants into University of Tokyo are from high school where male-only high schools. And that's probably one of the reasons why that gender inequality may not be so, that do not diminish very soon. Yeah, because that's if the high schools elite high schools are gender segregated, they may provide some indirect inequality of education opportunities.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Richard, did you have your hand up? No. Would you care to come to the mic? Sorry.
Yeah, Richard Solomon from Beacon Reports. The maximum liability, which in the paper said something like 13 million, 100, was it 100?
130 million.
130 million
in total.
yen. It seems extremely low, but then you mentioned some other figures. What impact, what is the maximum that you, in theory, can litigate for our criminal, is there a possibility for there to be a criminal action? And what type of impact can you possibly have if the lawsuit is so low in terms of impact, financial impact and/or criminal impact? That's my question.
My impression is different from yours because the amount of the claim is extremely high based on my and for this kind of the cases because there is many legal precedents about the gender discrimination and the gender assault, but the amount of the compensation, damage compensation granted by the courts is really low. Sometimes just only 1万円とか or more than なんか1 million is really, if the courts granted the payment, orders the company or the institution to pay the 1 million is a really good cases. So but in comparison with the other country, especially like the United States, in the United States there is a punitive damages system, and they of course are just only 2 million or so emotional damage compensation is has no so strong impact, economical impact on the medical this university, but I'm not sure. But I agree to your opinion because for my opinion, we have to the Japanese government to have and the registrator create the system, effective system to pursue the legal responsibility and the economic impact economical impact on to the company and institution conducted a discriminatory treatment, and so that we have to consider to create the punitive damage like the United States. But I don't think just the 2 million yen for each plaintiff is not so low in comparison with the other similar cases in Japan. Not criminal. This is not criminal case. It's just a civil cases.
Tsunoda Sensei.
すいません、日本語で。今の、請求額のことなんですけれども、日本では性差別による損害賠償額っていうのは裁判所では非常に低くしか認めないんですね。それでこのケースでは1人200万円というのを差別に起因するものだというふうにしてるんですけども、それでも他のケースに比べれば非常に高いということになっているんです。それで、はいはい。
In Japan, the Japanese court is the tender has the tender is likely to grant a very small amount of the damage compensation, especially in the sexual discrimination cases. So the 2 million yen in this case is relatively high in comparison with the similar cases.
で日本の社会では女性差別というのは大きなダメージをその当事者に与えるというのは考えられていないというのは一般的だと思うんですね。
In our Japanese society, did not think the gender discrimination, sexual discrimination does not give the crucial impact on the victim, the female victim.
それで、私の考えでは200万円というのは非常に低いというふうに思うんですが、 当事者の人はお金を目的に裁判をしているというふうな非難は避けたいという気持ちもあるようなんです。
In my opinion, this amount of the damage compensation of 2 million yen is the law, but in their situation, most of the plaintiffs don't want to be blamed to pursue and to look to be considered to pursue the responsibility to get the economic benefit from their university.
ということです。はい。
Thank you. Did you have another question? Oh, Drini, do you want to ask? Sorry, I didn't spot you there.
Kakuchi from University World News. And I'm sorry I'm late, so I don't know whether you covered it, but you talk about the pain and suffering of the plaintiffs. Just wondering whether you could give us a true case, a true story of how victims were damaged.
How victims got damaged from just cases? I think the most crucial impact on the plaintiff caused by this discriminatory cases is the Tokyo Medical University get rid of the self-confidence and motivation to move forward to the bright future from the female applicant. That is a big impact, a negative impact.
Do you know what really happened?
Really happened?
Yeah. Can you tell us an actual story of what happened to this person?
You don't have any information about this case?
Yeah, because I have.
Oh my God! From this class, we have to explain their cases.
No, she wants.
Well, she wants.
Particular person. She wants
The story of a real
Oh, okay.
So-
Yes.
So if you look at the, sorry, Drini, if you haven't seen it, if you look at the documents that have been given out, there's a section called the Voices of Former
yeah,
Applicants,
yes.
Section 2. I think what Drini's looking for is slightly more detail on one of those cases, if that's available. Did you see that, Drini?
Yes, we accept some of the comment from the individual plaintiff in in my handout, the voices of former applicants.
Yes.
And let me introduce some, just only one voices from the individual plaintiff. She is 20s. She continued to take 3 times to check the examination for consecutive 3 years. And she was very disappointed to know that really explicitly discrimination, gender discrimination by the Tokyo Medical University. And it is obviously flawed, the scam that the Tokyo Medical University treat the female applicant disadvantageously just because being a woman, and they nevertheless they have to they required me to pay the same amount of the application fee as the male person.
Okay, Drini. We have time for one more question, if there's anybody who wants to ask. Dozo. Anybody else? Okay, Dozo.
I'm going to say something rather cynical. I had dinner with a family on Saturday, and the daughter is studying medicine, and the mother said, she's going to marry anyway. I mean, I think the Japanese society, or let me phrase it as a question, how does the Japanese society react to your lawsuit? First of all, Japanese people usually dislike lawsuits. And then many people, I've been here for very many years, many people I know, they think everything is fine with this discrimination. So again, it's like the question about the vote. You don't have to change the Tokyo Medical University, you have to change the Japanese society. Or do you think there is a possibility to really do something?
I cannot say the whole our society dislike this kind of the litigation, because the purpose of this litigation is I want to emphasize the rule of law. Because the Japanese law, as I mentioned, there is several law, the fundamental law of the education stipulate and guarantee the right of the taken equal opportunity of education, and inhibits any educational institution to discriminate based on the race and the sex. That's why irrespective of the other, some people dislike this kind of litigation. Not, we have to pursue this the principle of the rule of law in this litigation.
すいません、ごめんなさい。この事件は分かったときに、さすがに日本人はショックを受けたと思います。そして、どうぞ。
As for specific for this specific to this litigation in this case, when this case was revealed, every Japanese citizen was shocked.
非常にはっきりした性差別で、これを性差別でないという理屈はないからです。
There is obviously gender discrimination. There is no reason to deny that this is not to deny this is discrimination.
それで私たちが弁護団を結成してすぐに、訴訟の準備もあって、たくさんの人から支援を仰ぐということでクラウドファンディングを行いました。
In order to prepare the operation, of course, we have to set up the foundation, the fundraising through the site, so we can successfully gather the many of the economic support from the many people, about 400 people.
いや、非常にたくさんの人が怒りだけではなくて具体的にドネーションするという行動に出たんですね。
ドネーションするということですね。Just the people just only showed the anger, but they conducted the concrete action through the giving the donation through the internet.
それで私たちのクラウドファンディングの最初のゴールは250万だったんです。
Our first set up the goal of the donation is 2.5 million.
そしたらそれを始めて1日で200万円が集まりました。
But we can achieve this amount of the 2.5 million yen just only one day.
それで私たちはゴールを500万円に上げたんです。
That's why we raised to the amount of money, the goal amount of money to the 5 million yen.
でその500万円も突破して最終的には740万ぐらいだったと思います。で非常にたくさんの人が怒りとともに行動してくれたというふうに私は理解しております。それは日本社会にとっての新しい変化ではないかと考えています。
And then we achieved the next goal, 5 million yen, and then we can reach the finally to 7.4 million yen. That represents of the people have the people just only have the anger, but they want to do the concrete action towards the discrimination.
So the fact that you raised over 7 million yen in such a short period of time suggests to you that something is changing in Japanese society, right? Is that unusual to gather that much money in a crowdfunding campaign?
Yes, I think this is the first cases we can get the fundraising in the specific litigation case.
Interesting. Okay, well, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Unless somebody has a burning question, I think we have to wind up. We were supposed to end at 12 o'clock. Can you tell us when, so the lawsuit has already begun. Do you have any idea when it will be wound up, when it will be concluded?
In a short period, the court clerk could inform set up the first trial date.
So we don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
All right. Well, we know that Japanese courts tend to operate slowly.
Yes.
All right, so I think that's a safe bet.
Maybe May.
Well, the best of luck with your lawsuit. I think everybody here wishes it well. Could you please, give your thanks to Itakura Sensei, who doubled not only as somebody who was explaining this, but as an interpreter. Yamaguchi Sensei, I presume you didn't come all the way from America for this, did you, today?
Yep.
You did? Oh, good Lord. Okay, well, thank you so much for that. And Tsunoda Sensei, of course, who did such a fine job of explaining everything. Do show your appreciation, please. Thank you very much. And you'd be happy to answer follow-up questions, I imagine, would you?